The reality is that 90% of our healthcare costs today are due to chronic lifestyle-driven diseases, things like diabetes, dementia, depression, heart disease, gastrointestinal issues, like gut stuff, mental health issues, autoimmune conditions, inflammatory conditions, hormone imbalances, infertility. That's 90%.
Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Relationships Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And we are still going strong in January, just getting you lined up.
And well.
And well, yes. And hopefully you've already been inspired by, these ideas around elevated wellness and health and what it means to have wellness in your life. And we want to jump right into today's episode here pretty quickly, but I wanted to do our thing. And so let's have our little drum roll. And today's, thank you for that, Sophie.
Yeah.
Today's review comes from Lynn's, and it says, "My touchstone, heart. Ignited has become a touchstone throughout my day to reconnect and speak my deepest truth. There are times when after many surface interactions, I begin to feel a sense of isolation in the depth of the work I am doing on myself. Listening to this show reminds me there are so many other people doing this deep work as well. Listening to Sophie and Adi reminds me not only that I'm not alone, but that I can create a greater depth of interaction with the people I interact with on a daily basis." Well, that's awesome.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I love it. We always look for depth in our interactions with the people around us. We were just talking the other day. We had a less deep kind of afternoon interaction. We definitely noticed it. We later on at night, we were kind of like, oh, that felt very surface level. We didn't feel like we were having any deep conversations. And sometimes you need that. Sometimes it serves a purpose, but we definitely try to go deep. So thank you for using us to allow you to do that yourself in your own life. And don't forget to DM us. You have now won our little care package.
Yep. So you'll get a book from Adi, The Abstinence Myth, and you'll get whatever your favorite superfood from philosophy is. So anytime you leave a review, wherever you listen, if we read it on air, then you will get a special package from us.
Amen.
So it's January. I want to read a quote about rebirth. So this says, "I shed habits that hinder my truth. I release and renew. When we've outgrown our old skin, we can shed the layers that no longer serve us. Certain habits reach an expiration date, giving us an opportunity to be renewed. Sometimes we're swept up by the motivation to change, and other times we resist letting go. The snake is here to encourage you to shed, release, and renew. She represents transformation, primal energy, and life force, which are all needed to cyclically shed for true regeneration. This is your time for rebirth. Let go of habits, stories, behaviors, or relationships that hinder your truth so you can experience an increased life force. If you hold on to them too tightly, they'll pollute the present. Your past has made you stronger and served its purpose, yet now it can serve you on a new and more aligned pathway. Trust that it is safe to shed and have a fresh start."
Yay.
I felt that was great for January. It's a time when we're so focused in the media and, wherever you look and go in ads, everything is about goals and meeting goals. And I think it's really important, given this interview, to just think about your wellness, think about your health, think about where you can uplevel, think about where you can make small changes that make a huge difference over time.
Yeah. Health is such a weird thing, right? It's like you have to take care of it regularly for you to not notice it. Because if you stop taking care of it, you can't notice.
It's the absence you fall of health. Apart. The absence of health is where you feel it.
The absence of wellness. Yeah, I guess.
It's not something you do feel it when you're well, you do feel it when you're healthy, but you're not like, I feel healthy today.
Yeah, like you don't wake up in the morning saying, I feel totally fine.
Right. You feel it when you're off.
Yeah.
Like I have a little head cold right now. I feel that I'm a little stuffy. I feel I'm off.
Yeah.
So what can I do? Oh, extra vitamins, extra wellness, extra sleep, extra water. But like the norm is that I feel good the majority of the time, thank goodness. And I've worked really hard to get to that place in wellness, you know, and we all are kind of like on this journey where we're shedding what doesn't serve us, filling up that space with things that maybe are up-leveled wellness and health. And I think that this interview is a great example of a way to think outside the box in terms of wellness. She's a doctor. She was trained just like your other MDs and like any other hospital, but she looks at it in a very progressive, beautiful, holistic way.
Yeah. And to move away, you know, we have a system that is based on, hey, when you notice that you're sick, come and we will help you feel less sick or take out whatever is injured in you or fix it. But the problem is that then you're it's kind of like when I talk to my clients, stop paying attention to what's not working well all the time, because then you're always focusing on what's not working well. Start paying attention to the things you want. Start moving yourself in the direction you want to move in. And so, you know, a new approach to physical wellness would be to regularly check in, regularly take care of yourself. And hopefully Parsley is helping people do this in a way that moves us away from this injury-based acute care need, but rather, hey, I've got a team of people that help me be at my best. Mm-hmm. You know, I have you, so that helps me, and it's helped my diet and initially kind of exercise and things of that nature. But not everybody,
babe.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. But not everybody has that. And then on top of that, not everybody's partners always
provide that.
Either able to provide it or always on point with being there and checking in with you. So it's nice to have a team. So
before we give you this interview, I want to just offer 3 questions that you can do later or now in your phone. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and you're going to write out the question so you have it for later. And I love offering journal activities on my newsletter, so definitely subscribe through the Philosophy website if you want to be a part of our newsletter. In our magical Monday emails, we release a couple times a month, we give you journal prompts. So number 1, what personal rules or beliefs feel outdated to you? 2, what does your body currently need in order to release, renew, and flourish? And 3, what are you curious or excited to explore? Reach far and wide here, even if it seems irrational at first. And the reading today and the questions are from the Moon Deck by my friend and also was on our podcast, Arana Lee. So just wanted to share those questions. You can just rewind and listen and write them down, but it's a really great way to just check in with your health and wellness in a more tangible sense.
All right. Stay tuned. After this break, we're going to come back with the wonderful interview for this week.
Yay. Love you guys.
This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fixed all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com.
All right. Welcome, everybody, back to our chat, our conversation with friends. We are speaking today with somebody who's kind of revolutionizing, I don't know, healthcare in general, revolutionizing the way we think about our doctor visits. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you guys. So psyched to be here.
Yeah. So you founded Parsley Health,
I did.
which, like I said, is a company that's trying to completely change the way people interact with their healthcare. I don't know why you would try to fix healthcare. It's totally fine as it is. It's working perfectly well. All the listeners right now are going, but I love my healthcare.
Yeah.
Why would we change it? I'm paying thousands of dollars a year and I'm not even really sure what I'm getting, and I can't talk to anybody when I want them, and even when I do talk to them, nobody knows what to do, and then I end up paying out of pocket ridiculous costs because I asked for a tissue and that tissue was a $400 tissue at my doctor's. I'm exaggerating, but like a little bit.
Yeah.
Sadly, you're not exaggerating that much.
No. Literally, I mean, just as a nightmare story, so people know how much I despise. I used to own a rehab, and so mental health in healthcare is even worse than physical health. But our daughter Noah had a really terrible infection on her thumb. Like, Sophie went downstairs, saw it, and then screamed up to me from the our foyer, like our entryway last time in our last place, and then ran before she couldn't even wait for me to get ready, like ran to the emergency room.
Yeah.
Eventually we ended up at Children's Hospital. No knock on Children's Hospital per se. It's just the system is insane. They ended up admitting her. She had to be there overnight, and
IVs.
they took care of her, like whatever. It was fine. They had to open the wound, blah, blah, all the stuff. We shared about it a lot while it was going on. We just got a $7,000 bill.
Whoa.
$7,000
No
bill.
surgery. No, I mean, it was very minor. They opened up a cut and kept her overnight in a little...
And gave her antibiotics. I pay $22,000 a year for healthcare.
Yeah.
Our family plan costs $22,000. I just want to give people like...
context.
I pay $22,000. My daughter goes to the hospital once for one night, and $7,000 gets added on. Now we're fighting it. We're talking like, but
most people wouldn't even know how to fight that. They would just think it's my bill. Like,
it's insane.
It's insanity.
It's actual insanity. So the reason I say that is our system is 100% broken. Nobody likes it. The people providing the treatment don't like it. The people getting the treatment don't like it. The insurance companies hate it while they're making billions off of us. And I'm assuming it's this nexus that I'm describing right now that is what made you say one day, hey, let's open up a health company. That sounds a lot easier to think of. You want to walk us a little bit through the process of what brought this on for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd say your experience is crazy, but it's everyone's experience, right? We pay thousands and thousands of dollars a year, tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket. A lot of it we don't use. And then increasingly, we don't get anything for it. And a lot of people, 50% of plans, health insurance plans today are these high deductible plans. So you pay, but then when you need it, you have to pay again.
Like catastrophic care kind of thing.
Right. And the lack of transparency is bananas. And so, seeing that, and also I'm a doctor. I train at Columbia and Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, been in New York for a long time now. And, those are great institutions providing great medical care on the cutting edge. I've trained at some great places, and I'm really grateful for my medical training. But what I saw was that, we're kind of good at like patching you together if you're seriously broken in the hospital. Like we're decent at that. But 99% of your health is happening outside the doctor's office and far before you get into a hospital. And what I saw in the primary care setting is a couple of just monster problems. First, that we've kind of reduced primary care, which is really supposed to be this all-encompassing look at your health that keeps you healthy. We've reduced it to urgent care. So we've kind of, in our culture, confused, I think, primary care and urgent care. And we think of primary care as 10-minute visit, a refill, your cold and flu, your UTI. Like, no offense to anyone, but that's what I call basic beans medicine. Like, that's not the things that the country is suffering from. The reality is that 90% of our healthcare costs today are due to chronic lifestyle-driven diseases. Things like diabetes, dementia, depression, heart disease, gastrointestinal issues like gut stuff, mental health issues, autoimmune conditions, inflammatory conditions, hormone imbalances, infertility. That's 90%. So we're not like the colds and the flus and the UTIs and the refills are not really cutting it. And I kind of sat back and I was like, why is this system like this? Like, why has primary care been kind of become this urgent care, very superficial service and just driving us into more expensive specialists, more expensive procedures and medications? And I sort of asked myself, like, why is our primary care system like this? Why are we in this boat? And why are we all so sick, And I sort of looked at it and I realized that we are set up for sickness. 94% of our diet is ultra refined. We eat hundreds of pounds of sugar a year. We sit 8 hours a day. We look at 10 plus hours of media and screens. Our sleep has been eroded by coffee and sugar and alcohol and, artificial light. Like, all the things that would keep us healthy are sort of missing from our environment. And then we have this primary care system that's not really doing the job that we need it to do. And so fast forward and all of that, I just thought, how could we make it better? And how could we create a primary care service, but the way it's supposed to be, where we spend real time with you, you have unlimited access to us between visits, so you don't have to wait. The average wait time for a primary care visit in this country is 29 days. So, and as you said, you can't talk to anybody in between. You can't ask a question.
True.
So what about unlimited communication? What about spending more time with you? What about addressing these things, like what you're eating, how you're moving, your sleep, your relationships, which we know are a huge determinant of your health? And why not kind of reinvent and redesign primary care in a pretty radical way as a service that's actually there to do a different job. And that job is to optimize your health and reverse chronic disease, as opposed to just like slap you together and keep you going. So that's the premise. And here we are.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. And I remember coming to the first welcome lunch at Soho House. How many years ago was that? Like 3?
3. Yeah. When we were just about to open like a mini outpost in LA. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember the concept, I didn't really understand. Like, it was just kind of like, I don't really get it. Can this replace what we have now? And, just like what Adi was saying with how ridiculous what happened with our daughter, and like having each child in the hospital, when we look at the bill of what it would have been, insanity.
Insane.
But the thing is, I don't even use my healthcare. It's like you said, it's like, unless I'm pregnant or having a baby, I don't see a doctor. I would go see my OB, but otherwise I don't see anyone. I have no one that I really gravitate towards. The only doctor we ever had a couple of years ago, I was just kind of like meh about. And then a couple weeks ago, I went to Parsley Health in West Hollywood, and it was a really comforting, incredible experience. And I get it now, you kind of have to feel it. And I hope that we can, properly describe it on this podcast today, because it's really special. And what you created is really incredible. Yeah. And my mom actually is a holistic nurse practitioner. So I grew up, it felt very familiar. Nurse practitioners take that extra time and really talk about holistic, like she's a holistic nurse practitioner. So it's a holistic approach, and that's what it felt like. While also bringing in, holistic. So bringing in some Western, like you're doing blood tests. We're looking at where we're deficient. We're looking at what's not working, what is working. And, it was over an hour session with the doctor there, and it felt really unique and different. I felt taken care of. I felt like I was taking care of myself. The conversations we had were wonderful. And then I did a follow-up phone call, which was virtual, which was really nice not to have to drive anywhere. And she was amazing and incredible. And I'm going to get new blood work soon, because the last blood work I got with you guys was right after having baby Noah. And now she's 18 months. So I've stopped breastfeeding. I want to kind of see what's going on now. And I just loved having, it was a really unique, special experience. So thank you for creating that.
Well, thank you for coming in, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, that is everything you described is the goal. We spend real time with you. We do everything via video if that's what you prefer, because the doctor should be where you are. We shouldn't only be accessible to you if you happen to live on our block or our corner. And I know that in LA, especially, that's a really big deal. But really all over the country, and we're just in the process of launching our national virtual service, video-based.
I was going to ask about that. Okay.
We have clinics in New York, LA, and San Francisco, and you can certainly still come into them. And the ones in New York and LA are these built out, beautiful gems of spaces of healing. But like, not everyone lives in a major metropolitan area, and not everyone has access. And sadly, if we only build medical services, good ones, in kind of the center of the mix in major cities, and think about all the people we're leaving out. So for us, like you went into the center, but then you also had a video visit. What we saw in our members who were coming into the centers was that they were doing 50+% of their visits via video anyway, even if they were like up the block in New York. And so it was just a no-brainer for us to begin extending the service 100% via video as opposed to like 50% via video.
Makes
Wasn't
sense.
a big leap.
Complete sense.
But back to the holistic part that you mentioned about your mom and that time that's spent and that more holistic view, there's this interesting thing. And we used to, I'm just being super honest with you guys, we used to like be a kind of afraid of the word holistic because it had been sort of pigeonholed for a while as this like, what does that mean, right? Like hippie,
like granola loving.
Yeah, like sort of untrustworthy, unscience. And like, that's not what we are at all. All of our doctors are board certified physicians who've trained at top institutions. We bring the latest science and testing. So we're doing a lot of in-depth proactive diagnostic tests, things like genetics, hormones, the microbiome, your nutrient levels, inflammation levels. We prescribe drugs because if you have a UTI, we're not going to Reiki that away. We are going to give you an antibiotic.
We're not going to Reiki that away.
Yeah, we're not going to Reiki away your UTI. We're just not going to do it because we're doctors. And we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we're bringing in the most cutting edge and modern medicine.
Yep.
But at the same time, we're taking this more holistic view, which is, what you eat, what you put in your mouth every day is driving a huge percentage of your health outcomes. And so if we don't address what you're putting in your mouth every day, what you're eating, how can we be a truly modern doctor? And that's not woo-woo. That's looking at today's data where, as I said earlier, 90% of today's conditions and the costs associated with them are chronic lifestyle-driven diseases that we are eating, moving, and living our way into. And so we have this opportunity to reverse those diseases and to help people feel better, to get off of medications, which our data shows that we reliably help people reduce medication burden significantly. And we can do that through this combination of the most cutting edge medicine, but this more holistic medicine. And now we own it. We talk about holistic all the time because it is the best word for what we do. And it's not about being hippied out. Like, the most modern medicine should be holistic, like what your mom does.
Yep.
Yeah. First of all, I got to say, I don't know what's wrong with granola. I love granola. And,
Come on, who doesn't like it? Right? Yeah.
Granola is really amazing. We have a lot of varieties in our pantry.
Mostly grain free,
and I love them. But and our kids love them too. But I digress. I come from a really Western medicine family. My dad was a physician. My sister's a physician. By the way, studied at Columbia, and did her fellowship at Cornell on New York over there.
Yep.
And it took me a while. I think I'm still in the process, to be perfectly honest, of figuring out where the sweet spot is of combining older practices or Eastern practices, or more, instead of calling them woo, more spiritually based or energy based or that kind of work. And I mean by that acupuncture. I mean, even some of the things that are relatively evidence based at this point, right? Like acupuncture has also a lot of Western research behind it.
Yep, absolutely.
But I know that for me, the automatic thought process in my head is still the Western elements. I'm sure you deal with that with a lot of people. I cannot be the only one. And so I love that you use assessments. I'm going to come into my first visit sometime soon. I think we're arranging for that now.
I'm actually really excited. Adi has Hashimoto's.
Yeah.
And he is just on a prescription drug every day. And I'm interested to see how you guys will handle that.
Here's my thing, right? Even though Hashimoto's thing, like the reason I never say that I have Hashimoto's is because it's just a name somebody gave to the fact that my body produces antibodies to my own thyroid hormone. So that, and I know I've done this work, I'm in the more mental health space, but I am definitely one of those people who for years, maybe a couple of decades, was under chronic stress. Thyroid problems run in my family. My mom might have a little stress. Not sure. What do you think so?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. My mom is like type A for the type A people. Like she's the one that organizes other type A people to be more type A. And so what was called hyperthyroid her whole life, and then your thyroid runs out of steam and it becomes hypothyroid, is sort of the pattern that's been shown in my family. And now we just have a fun new name for it. It's called Hashimoto's. But my thyroid regulation is disrupted and has been disrupted.
Ton of work with thyroid, and we actually identify Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition, as you said, that attacks the thyroid tissue, and we identify it really routinely. And even though about almost 80% of all autoimmune conditions are in women, for reasons that are not well understood, but 20% are in men. And we have, I always tell the story of a guy who came to us in New York, like high stress, typical New York diet, working in some sort of finance role. And he had been gaining weight, feeling pretty down, feeling tired, not sleeping well, and just kind of feeling what I call FLC syndrome, feeling like crap. And he went to his primary care doctor, and his primary care doctor is like, cool, you've got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, you're, not obese, but you're overweight and you're depressed. So here's 3 medications, a cholesterol med, a blood pressure med, and an antidepressant.
Yep.
All at the same time with no
right.
With no time period to adjust, all the side effects together.
Like, bye. And oh, by the way, this is the solution, right? You're just going to be in these drugs. And so he came to Parsley because he had heard about us. And he said, I'm still tired. I'm still depressed. I'm still gaining weight. And I still have these conditions. I'm just now on 3 medications forever. So that doesn't really seem like an outcome that I'm particularly stoked about. Mm-hmm. And when we did in-depth testing, and we actually routinely test for Hashimoto's thyroiditis because we pick it up all the time. And in women, it's so important because anywhere from 1 in 5 to 1 in 8 women in her lifetime will have a thyroid condition, either low thyroid function, which is hypo, or high thyroid, like your mom had, which is hyper, which can later then turn into hypo. So, this is really common, but doctors just aren't testing for it. They're saying, oh, you're depressed, you're gaining weight, work out more.
It took my doctor just so everybody hears this, that primary care doctor she talked about. I was complaining about lethargy, low energy, and I was gaining weight for 4 years.
Wow.
And we were going in, he was doing testosterone. He did regular sort of thyroid testing, but you don't find the antibody unless you test for it. Right. And so 4 years, it was literally as if he went to a conference and heard about Hashimoto's, and then after 4 years decided that he was going to test me for it, and then lo and behold.
And we test for it in everyone, men and women, day 1, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to wait till that thyroid hormone starts crashing to test for it, because if you catch the antibodies early and you do something, you can actually slow down the progression of the disease. And big triggers for autoimmune conditions are chronic stress. Sometimes food allergies for thyroid, in particular gluten and soy, seem to be an issue. There's a number of different things. Genetic predisposition is certainly there, but everyone says, oh, well, I just have a gene for that. Well, guess what, people? Everything is genetics plus environment. There are very, very few genes that are determinative, meaning like, I have the gene, I'm definitely going to have this thing.
Yeah, unless you have Huntington's disease.
Very specific things that
probably do.
Fibrosis, absolutely, that exists. But that is the vast minority of genetic conditions. The majority of the genetic conditions, well over 95%, or if not more, are, we might have that gene, but does that gene turn on and off or not? And our environment, our stress, our food, the toxins we're exposed to, infections we're exposed to, chemicals we're exposed to, all sorts of things can turn those genes on and off in real time. And so for my patient who had these symptoms, we uncovered Hashimoto's and were able to support his thyroid function, worked with a health coach to clean up his diet because he was definitely, burgers and pizza and beer, not exactly helping our cause, got him sleeping again without Ambien or whatever he was using. And not only did he get off of the high blood pressure medication, the high cholesterol medication, and the antidepressant, because all of those things were actually driven by his underlying thyroid condition, he lost weight, is happier, is sleeping better, and feeling good. And so I think that example and your story as well kind of show this core point, which is that our medical system's like, cool, you have this thing, take this drug. And I think people are waking up and being like, that's not really the end game for me. Like, I've seen my parents and my grandparents, highly over-medicated on 10, 15 meds at a time and still not feeling great. And our generation is sort of like, I think we could do a bit better than that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I'm excited to come in. First of all, I haven't had my blood test done for this in about a year and a half. So it'll be, and I'm on levothyroxine. So whatever we end up deciding to do with that. But it's, you said that our current medical system is really good for essentially like acute care. You broke your leg, put your leg together. You don't want Reiki, but you also don't want acupuncture when you broke your leg, right? Like, you want somebody to set your leg and maybe help with pain a little bit. But when it comes to wellness, I would argue not only does our current system not do anything to help it, that idea of an approach, wait until it's so bad that you have to complain and run into an office for it, exacerbates the problems. It makes sure that we're trained, like we're psychologically trained to grin and bear it until it's bad enough. Like, I didn't really go to my doctor outside of saying to him, hey, I was gaining weight. That was one thing. And then my sleep, I would go to sleep for 8 hours and I would wake up still tired. Mm-hmm. And I would still only talk to him about it like every 6 months to a year, because we got trained to say, well, these are just symptoms. I'm just going to grin and bear it and I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we really have been trained is the exact right word. Like, insurance companies, one of my favorite things is people are always like, well, you guys are healthcare, is Parsley an insurance company? And I'm like, no, but the insurance companies have all marketed themselves as your healthcare. They're not your healthcare. They are not providing you healthcare. They are not doctors. They are not services. So we've sort of had, and I talk about words a lot because I think words are really important. We've been trained to hear that, to conflate my health care with insurance. Insurance is a medium for paying for some of your health care. In this country, it doesn't pay for very much, and it doesn't always pay for the right things. And so what it pays for is a 10, 15-minute annual visit with your primary care doctor, but that it trains us, well, don't engage other than that, right? And so, if you only did to your car what your car insurance paid for, your car would be in a pretty bad spot. So
and out of gas on the street corner.
Out of gas, right? And so if we only do for our bodies what insurance happens to cover in a dated model of what they say they will pay for and they won't pay for, that's not going to work. And again, insurance is important. And so as your Parsley doctor, we prescribe a medication, it will be, covered by your insurance like another doctor prescribes it. If we order you blood work, your insurance kicks in for the blood work. It's not that we're not kind of part of the system in that way, but our services are out of pocket for us. And the reason we started that way was because we said, okay, back to what you guys said at the very beginning, we wanted to radically change healthcare, medical care. And to do that, we couldn't wait for insurance to catch up with us and recognize that if I spend an hour and 15 minutes with you, that's a different level of value than the 10 minutes another primary care doctor spends with you, but the insurance company would want to pay the same thing.
Can I ask a question about that? So I don't know if this comes up for anybody. I know I'm pretty familiar with insurance just because running my own facility. And so that it's a nightmare scenario. But out of pocket, do you guys, or would you guys provide super bills for people who want to then submit
absolutely.
services? Yeah.
So just if all the time and they get out of network reimbursement. Now, some people have out of network reimbursement in their plan, some do, some don't. So you have to look at your plan. And thanks to our crazy system, everybody has basically their own health insurance plan. There's no consistency.
Yeah.
So that part's tough. And then you can also use FSA and HSA. And so once you come in, our teams will provide you with all the paperwork you need to submit for that. And I'm not supposed to really talk about this yet, but we are in the early processes of figuring out what the right way to work with insurance more directly is. It's going to take a while because it's not going to be this month, but it's always been, my mission to give greater access to this type of medicine. The doctors practicing this type of advanced holistic modern care are typically thousands of dollars an hour in their own private practices. They're really hard to access. They're really hard to find. You have to be super wealthy. And so Parsley, through our membership model, changed that in a really big way. But that was always just the starting place for us. The long-term game is to continuously make this more and more accessible and working towards that every day.
That's great. So just to unpack that for people as they're listening, because I think my initial resistance or the stickiness for me was, well, I'm paying $20,000 a year for my family's health insurance. Now there's this additional cost for these other services. How does that actually fit in? And I'm not, just as a caveat, everything I'm saying right now is not a recommendation for you guys listening in terms of what you need to do for your healthcare. It's the thinking that I had in my own. Now saying, look, Sophie doesn't use our healthcare at all. I think the cost for Sophie alone is probably about $6,000 a year in our plan, because all our 3 kids are on it too, but she doesn't touch it unless she needs to be hospitalized. So that's that critical care insurance that you mentioned, right? Like a catastrophe, $5,000 deductible if you got hospitalized, kind of a thing. But we did use it for our kids, and less now that they're growing older, et cetera. So I was kind of trying to figure out where that fits in. The reason I'm saying that is if you can submit bills and get super bills to your insurance company and get some of that money back, depending on your plan, it helps to offset some of the increased costs, number one. And then secondly, some people might actually consider having a more catastrophe-based traditional plan. Like if I need to go to the hospital, Parsley is not going to be the right person to help me, right?
No.
If I broke my leg or I had a heart attack, I don't go to Parsley, I go to the hospital. But for my regular ongoing care, if this is a much more convenient thing, people might start having these hybrid models where they sign up for something like Parsley and at the same time have the critical care component if they need it.
Yeah, we're seeing that more and more because, even in an employer-based health insurance plan, because there's all these high deductible plans and FSA and HSA, I actually have to put money tonight into my FSA and HSA for next year because, I can use it for all these cool things. So tax-free dollars, so, that's legit. And I'm having a baby in the new year. So I know there's going to be costs, right? So you guys know you have 3, I'm working on 2. So you can use it and you can use these benefits. And so even just a basic high deductible plan that still has some prescription drug benefits because you want those and is still going to cover some laboratory tests and is going to cover you for hospitalization and things. I mean, we need health insurance for those reasons, right? But what we do at Parsley is so much further beyond what a regular doctor does for you. We are optimizing your nutrition, your mental health, your sleep, your supplements, doing in-depth testing. And what we see is that for a lot of people, we are reducing chronic prescription drugs, so reducing their overall healthcare costs. We're reversing chronic illness or reducing it, helping people get rid of that high blood sugar and that high cholesterol and that high blood pressure and that weight gain and that depression. We're helping women get pregnant without IVF in some cases, which is super exciting because, again, IVF fertility services, awesome, great that they exist, but a lot of women go so expensive, really high stress. People forget that IVF the majority of the time doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So you go into this, major process, and what I see a lot is women who are not getting pregnant or are having miscarriages, and no one's looking under the hood and saying, why is this happening?
Yeah.
And identifying autoimmune, low thyroid, inflammation, genetic abnormalities. nobody's looking. And so we have a little bit in this country, and this is also what we've been trained on, this like zero to specialist mentality. Like, I do nothing and I don't want to deal with my primary care doctor. It's frustrating. And what does that person really do for me anyway? Unless I have, an immediate acute need, I don't have a relationship with them. The average person who's under 65 doesn't have a primary care doctor who they know necessarily anymore. So we've really sort of jumped the shark, and then we go straight to all these specialty services. I have a gut problem. I'm going to go see a GI and get a $3,000 colonoscopy. And it's like, time out. Like, where is the middle? And so at Parsley, because we're addressing these things in this much more in-depth way, while our upfront cost, which is a little under $5 a day for the year, is more than your average primary care doctor, what we're often saving people is unnecessary specialists, unnecessary medications, and just longer term helping them relate to their bodies and their health in a more proactive and different way, which is just going to save you money, right?
Yeah, it's preventative healthcare. It's
right.
The way it should be. It's not just catastrophe. This thing happened. Now I have to go to the hospital. It's preventing it before the things happen. It's supporting you along your way instead of when disaster strikes.
Right. Yeah. And if disaster strikes, we'll be your guide.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we're the person to do your knee replacement. You still need an orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
But we'll be your guide to how to think about that, how to think about your options. If we're local to you, we have great referral lists, and we can refer people to psychiatrists and orthopedic surgeons and cardiologists and acupuncturists. We are not, we're all Western trained doctors. We're not, Chinese medicine doctors and acupuncture, but sometimes acupuncture is a really great tool, just like sometimes knee surgery is a really great tool, or blood pressure medication is a really great tool. And we just want to be able to give you that whole picture and the best of the best guidance and be your partner along the way.
And when does your national plan launch?
So we're live in, I think, if I'm right, as of today, 4 states for 100% telemedicine: New York, California, I hope I'm getting this right, Florida, and Delaware. And then January, this is right now, we're in December when we're talking. So January is going to be a big month for us. We're going to launch, it looks like, in about another 10 states.
Amazing.
And many people know that in our country, we have this wonky, like, state by state, somewhat regulation around healthcare. So the reason we're launching like states at a time is because of that system. It's not really because of us, again.
And so you'll have to have physicians within each one of those states that provide care only within those states, or at least they have to be licensed across the states.
So there's a lot of what people call telemedicine companies out there that have national services. Teladoc, American Well, there's a billion of them, right, that do mainly like urgent care style services, but telemedicine's not new, right? And when you dial a doc on one of those apps, if you've ever used one, you're not necessarily getting a doctor who's like literally in your state.
Sure.
You're sometimes getting a doctor who might be in another state, but who's licensed in your state. Now, so we're moving across the country on the regulatory side more towards slowly but surely like national licensure, which just like has to happen. I remember hearing the story about, I think it was one of the major hurricanes in Louisiana, and like doctors in Texas were not allowed to come help across the border because they weren't licensed to practice medicine in Louisiana. And you're like, we all go to med school. We all take the same tests. Like, this is, yet another crazy thing about our medical system, but I digress.
And what are you excited about?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about being able to reach people wherever they are, because we saw that people were flying from other cities, states, and even countries to see us in person. So to just let people like skip the flight and see us virtually is pretty cool. I'm a nerd, and so I'm excited about the outcomes data that we're tracking. So just seeing how our services are really helping people, and we track that pretty consistently and are always just trying to learn and be better. Like, we show that we reduce chronic prescription drugs on the aggregate by about 66%. And that data is held up for a couple of years. And so as our population grows, we'll watch and see how that data plays out in bigger
So exciting.
That's cool. And then I'm also excited about, we're building a lot of technology right now to support what we do and make it even better. So lots of cool tech, including an app coming in 2020, which for us is, so much of what you do with us. You sign up online, you schedule online, you message with your doctor online, you see your results online. And we are just excited to build more of that out to make that piece of it even cooler and easier to do.
I love that. Yeah. Every time I'd get information from my OB about the kids, I went through UCLA, and she was an amazing doctor, but like the systems make a big difference. Like it was kind of a pain to make an appointment. It was kind of a pain to get my results. Like I couldn't remember my password. Like it was just always something. And like I would come to my email and then it said log into the it was always, and I'm like, I don't know, I'll just find out next time I'm there. Like I may be dying, but like, it's fine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting that you say that, because it's like yet another example of how the medical system just made it so hard for us to engage with it.
Yeah.
And then says like, well, people don't engage with their healthcare.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's crazy. And so I think what's interesting has been to watch over the past 5 or 10 years, this consumer health, like with the rise of consumer health, right? And it's now a $4 trillion global industry. And it's everything from fitness to foods to supplements to at-home diagnostic testing, precision medicine. It's all this cool stuff. And I remember being in med school and them always sort of saying or implying to us as in our training as doctors that like people don't really care about their health. And they just like almost like they want to be sick, and like you have to get them to take their medications and like no one's terribly interested. And I'm like, I just think that's BS. Like I think that people are really interested more and more and more in feeling good and being healthy. But the medical system has made it really hard to engage with it. And
I agree.
Now I think because of us and because of lots of things, because of new technology, I think you're seeing that change.
I love that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on here and explaining this to people, because I think more than anything, the healthcare system is an enigma. So people I always say this over and over and over, we're more scared of things we don't understand. We don't understand how healthcare works. We just stay away from it. We're just scared of it. Yeah. We have 5 questions.
Okay.
That we ask every one of our guests. Are you all ready for the hot seat?
I'm ready.
First thing that comes to mind, what's the best advice that you've ever received?
Ooh. It's not this or nothing. It's this or better.
I like it. It's somebody who believed in the power you have to change things. Do you remember who said that?
A girlfriend it's not a famous person. A girlfriend of mine told me that, and it turned out one of her mentors had told her that. And I remember this was like the first time that I was raising money for venture capital, and it was really new experience to me. And, the 2018, so last year's status show that 2% of all venture capital went to women-led companies. And so, and we've raised a pretty significant amount of venture capital at this point, which is something I'm proud of, especially as a female founder and a physician, which is pretty rare. But, in that process, man, it's hard, right? You get a lot of no's. It can be very frustrating.
Sure.
And I remember talking to her, and she reminded me, it's not this or nothing. There's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of people out there. There's a reason that this one person or one fund or one thing didn't work out. It's not this or nothing. It's this or better. And I remember that for everything in my life, because I think we can get in this mentality of lack, and sometimes it's just timing or waiting for the right person or the right thing. And so the more I stay in that mindset, like it's not this or literally nothing, it's just this or something even better. And my experience, like the things that have gone, past me by or I've passed by, I've never looked back. And the things that have stuck have always been incredible, even if they came a little bit later than I might have asked them to.
Agreed.
That's awesome.
What about one of your proudest moments to date?
Oh my goodness. Trying to think of. I think, in 2019, this is like sort of a silly one maybe, but we opened our first built out clinics that were end-to-end ours in New York and LA within about 7-8 months of each other. And they're designed with biophilic design, and they're healing spaces, and they're kind of this living embodiment of who we are. Because before that, we'd had these kind of outpost offices and a co-working space, which is kind of incredible that we grew the company that way to start with and didn't have fancy spaces, but just seeing them both open and seeing how beautiful they were. And when I walked into the West Hollywood space in October, and it was like the first time seeing it fully finished. I'd seen it under construction, but not like done. I literally cried because not only was it awesome, and did we take all the learnings from New York and like make it even greater, but my team like just did it. Like I wasn't, you know what I mean? And just to see that, and to be surrounded by this group of people who work with me, who deeply care about this vision, like that makes me really proud.
So cool.
Amazing.
We both feel the same way about our teams. On the flip side of that, what has been your hardest moment to date?
I think as a founder and CEO, you're always at the edge of your learning curve. Like your job is constantly changing. What the nature of what I need to do to be a great leader last year, when we were, less than 50 people, is very different than now when we're well over 100, right? And so my challenge is always kind of staying ahead of that and like not losing sight of the horizon, but challenging myself to just be better and learn. So I'm trying to think of a specific example because there's so many along the way of challenges. I'll say just a patient story that actually was really challenging. I see patients on Thursdays. So as the CEO of the company, I'm mostly on the business side, but I still see patients. And I keep a small patient panel and I see them on Thursdays. And I saw a patient who had been referred into us, really complicated case, really complicated like history of mental health issues, anorexia, hormone imbalances, had seen a zillion doctors, right? And when someone's seen a zillion doctors, like usually most stones have been turned over. It's not like we're going to magically, find something that someone else has overlooked. Sometimes we do. But she was just really frustrated, like at life. And it was a really hard moment because I knew in this patient interaction, like I wasn't going to be able to just fix this. It wasn't, a lot of medicine today is not a quick fix. It's a process of doing tests, building trust, trying different things out and seeing what works to slowly heal and get better. And this person was just angry at the world, angry at me. And it was like this hour-long visit where I did my best to like just ultimately hold space and try to be present and know that I couldn't fix this. And sometimes as doctors, you're like a little bit the brunt of how people feel, and how they feel is totally legitimate, but you kind of get that. And it took a lot. It took a lot for me to remember, like, my role in this moment isn't to magically fix this problem. My role in this moment is to try to be here for this person, hopefully be a better partner to her than other medical providers have been in the past. And like that might be enough. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's like you want to do 100%, but you have to realize that 10% is better than nothing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. You're doing great work. So, I mean, of all people, you're someone as a business owner, as a woman, as a doctor that has to take care of herself first. What are your self-care rituals or practices? Does it change, or do you have something you do consistently?
I'm a yoga addict, so yoga is my love. So you'll find me in a regular yoga class, even 7.5 months pregnant, much to the chagrin of my teachers and everyone around me. I'm like, I'm here. As the pregnancy goes on, I'll get a massage every now and then, but I'm doing more like prenatal massage now that I'm bigger and it's closer to the end. And I work with guides. I think the biggest learning for me over the past couple of years has been like, I can't do this alone. You guys are entrepreneurs. You've started your own thing. And when you start, you're like, I got to do everything. And I think the biggest challenge of that is learning that like no one gets up the big mountain. No one gets up Everest by themselves. They just don't. Right. And so I have a meditation teacher who I personally work with maybe once a month. I have an executive coach who I meet with twice a month. And these people are helping me constantly see outside of myself and be better. And like, that's really important self-care, because otherwise you can get really stuck in your head, and getting out of it is probably one of the biggest self-care moves I can make.
Absolutely.
And sleep, and just like not sacrificing sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what I love hearing about that? So many people who make it become, and I guess make it by itself is a subjective descriptor, but they become known for the success, right? Like you're a CEO of a company, a founder of a company who's growing and doing well and changing healthcare. And so you become the focus. And a lot of times, nobody knows the amount of help that each one of those people needs to be able to show up. You mentioned coaching, right? We're all, you said it so well before, being on the edge of your own knowledge and skills and growth curve. Like, if you're not aware of that and you don't get the help you need, at some point you fall off that cliff because you don't have what it takes to get to the next level. And so having support, having coaches and having educators that keep you on the forefront is so key and so important. It's really nice to hear that from somebody.
Yeah.
It's true.
Last but not least, this podcast is called Ignited. What ignites you?
Ooh, I am just personally really passionate about health and wellness. Like it started for me with yoga and then meditation, and then it was about eating healthy. And I think that, and this one I'm totally stealing from Eve Ensler, who's a famous author, but in one of her TED Talks, she says that happiness is giving the world what you want the most yourself. And I love that, because I think if you're truly passionate about something and something really lights you up, then that can drive you to give that thing outwards, right? And so It's funny, like, in like tech startup land, I meet so many people who start companies like in healthcare, and they have no interest in health or wellness, or, they run like ad tech companies and like all the love, but like I could not get up out of bed every day and work as much as I work and do what I do to, I don't know, slightly modify like the efficiency of like a search ad. Like I would just not be interested in doing that. And more power to you if that does light you up. But I think for me, like this passion for health and wellness is really genuine and core to who I am. And it's how I found my way, frankly, out of, I could just be a conventional medicine doctor. I have an MD and doing that. But this passion for health and wellness and all the ways in which it's so much bigger than conventional medical care drove me and drive me and ignite me to keep going even on the hard days. And so that's what it is. So I always tell people, like, don't start a company or start something to like be a founder, quote unquote, because being a founder is a drag. Like,
not great.
You work your butt off. You're constant, like you wake up to 99 fires every day. You put out 36 of them. And then the next morning there's like 99 more burning. Like that is the life, there's always something. And you're always in what one of my advisors calls the messy middle. It just feels like you're permanently living in the messy middle. And so there's no glory in that. So if you aren't passionate about something that's going to keep you going through the somewhat endless messy middle, I think it's hard to get there.
Yeah. Agreed.
So beautiful.
Thank you so much for all that you do. We love Parsley and can't wait to see what Adi's experience is there. I think he'll be blown away.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Have you guys in. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As usual, I'll tell you, take a little screenshot, especially, you know what, I'd love in this context, I'd love to hear either like healthcare nightmares, people who've been accessing care at Parsley and can talk a little bit about that. Anybody who can really have a conversation about it. So just tag us and share across social media. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.